Hello, everyone. Bill Wrenchler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. It is Wednesday. That means it's Crime Stoppers Day. We're happy to have LPD's Jared Minary in the building. We're going to talk about some cases we need help solving, but also we're going to talk about some cases that we have solved, cases that you saw here on the desk with us.
Absolutely.
Which it's always nice to see the fruits of our labor. Not necessarily all our labor that went into solving these cases, but we like to think it is.
I would say that the publicity definitely helps.
Good. Good. That is good. So we're going to start, though, first with the two new cases that we have. And Jared, we'll start with our credit card thief that turned into fraudulent charges.
So this guy goes into the Super Saver, 25th and Pine Lake on Saturday, August 3rd, not too long ago. Basically, the victim is shopping along, and this guy bumps into her cart. And they have just a brief exchange, and he walks out.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to bump into you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like sorry. So go back through video. It looks like they find this guy and a female that's wearing a blue dress. We'll see in just a second here. But they're in the store for a total of about 3 minutes. And they were kind of tracking this victim. So, I mean, it sounds like they went in, picked their target, followed her, got the opportunity, and were out within 3 minutes. So pretty accomplished at this, I would say. This credit card then has been used. They had a couple of cards that were used at Sam's Club and Best Buy later that day. And when we pull the video for that, we see these two females that were in there. And the female in the blue is the one that we saw in the video with the male at Super Saver originally. So easy to pretty much tie all that together, that these three are probably working together. So we would definitely like to get some information on them. More than likely, in this kind of case, when we see this level of activity, they're probably a traveling group. But again, kind of like we talked about last time, they don't just come to town and are gone. Usually they come into town. They go to a restaurant. They go see a movie. They're kind of living it up for a little while. They stay in a hotel. So we're hoping that maybe somebody happened to seen them, might have seen a vehicle, maybe had an interaction with them, maybe something that we aren't even thinking of, and we can get some information on who these three are. Yeah,
again, just very sort of innocuous interactions that we probably take for granted, but we probably end up then knowing something because of those innocuous interactions.
Exactly.
So again, all three individuals in this case, all African American. Again, the gal in the blue dress has some tattoos that we have circled here.
Yep.
Looks like on her shoulders that we might think are sort of distinguishing remarks. Again, in all of the images, they are wearing those face masks.
Yes.
That we were all wearing a couple years ago.
Stuck around since 2020. Not my favorite fashion trend to be in effect still, because it makes our job much harder.
And so this was early August 3rd, and this was started at the Super Saver on 25th and Pine Lake.
Correct.
And then was it the Sam's Club, the South Sam's Club, or the North side?
I don't recall at this time which Sam's Club it was. Obviously,
Sam's
the Best
Club,
Buy, only one in town.
Yep, so probably I would imagine the one closest.
Yes.
To the Best Buy. And so again, if we know anything, we think we know anything, Jared, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, obviously, there's several ways you can get a hold of us. Obviously, you can just call a police officer and say, I got some information to share. You can use that 441-6000 number. That's the non-emergency dispatch number. And you can talk to an officer there to give us any information you want. Of course, if you want to remain anonymous or be eligible for that cash reward, you do want to contact Crime Stoppers. First of all, you can call the phone number 402-475-3600. You can always go online to LincolnCrimeStoppers.com to see these cases and all the other ones we're working on right now. And that will give you a form on there that you can fill out to give us information. And finally, of course, you can go through the P3 app, download that to your phone, and you can give us information. Kind of like the website, you're filling out a form, but it's great information that we can even have a little bit of a two-way conversation with you now and then.
And so, again, for this case, it was $6,000 worth of charges?
Yes. Yep. So, obviously, the victim is hopefully going to get all that money back, but that's still a pretty big loss.
For those, for both Sam's Club and Best Buy there. Also, just really quickly on the non-emergency phone number, my wife found out the hard way.
Uh-oh.
That you're one digit away from, I believe, the Lincoln Parks and Recreation Department. Because she was trying to call about wood chips or something like that.
Yeah.
And they ended up answering, and it was Lincoln Police Department, non-emergency. And she goes, I think I've made a mistake. I called the wrong place. So be careful when you punch.
I've had that even in my office. We'll get calls for, like, especially after this last big windstorm. Yeah. I've had 3 or 4 calls about people removing trees from their yard, and
so close.
I was not the person to talk to for that.
You may lend a hand, but no, the different department. I imagine, again, those city departments, they're all probably
pretty close.
6,000 and something. So, which Coincidentally, by the way, I did finally get my trees removed from my boulevard. Well,
So-
the
so she
trees
did
are still
call the
there.
right people.
My stick branch, my branch pile, has finally been removed. Ooh, man, I was really excited to see that. So that was one of the good things that happened this.
I've noticed they've been chipping down a lot of those trees that we had in piles around the city. So
Well, I
that's
think
good
I
too.
just saw the city put out a tweet today too that they have
I missed it.
like 3 or 4 new wood chip piles that are open to the public. So there we go.
Plenty to
We're-
go around.
Yes. All right, we're getting off here on a tangent, Jared. I am an avid. I don't have my motorcycle anymore. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But when I did have my motorcycle, I was an avid motorcycle rider. I took my courses. I got certified. My license still says that I'm eligible to drive. And so I always get a little upset to see folks on motorcycles who are misbehaving, driving unsafely, because I feel like it gives the rest of the people who do enjoy riding their bikes and do so safely a little bit of a bad rap.
I 100% agree with that statement.
And
yes.
so our second case we have today
Yep.
is one of those individuals who kind of gives the rest of the motorcycle crowd a little bit of a bad rap.
Right. So this is last Sunday. So basically, an officer's driving down the street. They see this guy on a bike. He has no registration on it, no plate, no in-transit tags, nothing like that. So they try to do a traffic stop on him, basically right around 27th and O Street. He starts driving really reckless at a very high rate of speed. The officer, it was unsafe for that officer to try to even follow him at that point. Another officer tried to stop him later on that evening, so we essentially had 2 different pursuits with this vehicle. So we are hoping to get some information on it. Obviously, the clothing he's wearing in these images, those are kind of the things he could change, but what we really want to focus on is most of the time they don't change their bike and they don't change their helmet. So with that helmet, we're hoping maybe somebody can recognize this, a dark colored helmet, probably black, but it's got that reflective, rainbowish kind of visor that really stands out. We believe this might be a black and white Yamaha bike. So we're just hoping that somebody recognizes this rider and can get us in touch with him so we can drop a couple of tickets on him.
Yeah, it looks like tattoos there, maybe on his left arm. It looks like
Yep.
in this picture as well. And again, just like you see some of these, and I don't know what he was doing necessarily, but they zip between cars,
Yep.
and it's just like, are you trying to kill yourself?
Yeah,
Or
and I
get
think-
someone else hurt. Like,
I thought I just heard somebody had a motorcycle pursuit somewhere and somebody died. Maybe that was in Omaha recently?
I'm not sure about
and
that, but-
I'm not sure either. I just heard about something like that, and that's the kind of thing that frustrates me with this is that it's just dangerous for themselves, but it's also dangerous for everybody else on the road when they're doing this kind of stuff. And I understand you buy a sport bike, you want to ride it fast, but obviously O Street is definitely not the place to even try that. So you're putting yourself and many others in risky situations.
Yeah, 100%. And so, again, we just went over this. But, again, if you know anything, think you know anything, maybe recognize the bike, maybe recognize the helmet, need some spare change to maybe fix up your motorcycle, you could do that through Crime Stoppers. Again, the only way to be eligible for the reward is to go through LincolnCrimeStoppers.com or that P3 app or that just basically that anonymous tip line as well. But if you just want to be a good citizen and report in, you could, again, use that 441-6000 number to speak to an officer. So, again, hopefully we hear something on both of those cases here coming up in a couple weeks, in the next couple weeks, Jared. You guys have had a pretty good success rate with closing a lot of these cases. We've talked in the past. It's basically a coin flip. If you show up on LincolnCrimeStoppers.com, there's a good chance that someone out there knows something and they're going to say something.
Absolutely. Really good clearance rate for Lincoln, 51%. So more than likely, we're going to catch you if we put you up there. So
51%. If my forecast accuracy was that good,
I'm going to refrain from commenting on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But we do have some cleared cases that we want to talk about. And these, again, are cases that we've seen here on the streaming desk and in segments that we've done over the past several weeks and months. And so you have, you sent me a big long list here.
Yep.
There's probably 10 or so
quite a
cases
few
on
here.
here.
These are fairly recent.
So walk us through this first one here. I just started from the top here.
So basically this is a guy over at De Leon's at 12th and South Street. He was kind of playing one of the game machines there and ran back behind the counter and stole a bunch of cash from the business. We got some good tips on this one. In a way, it actually turned out that it was an officer that recognized the guy from previous cases. And so he contacts the officer investigating the crime and says, hey, I think this is your person. So it's kind of a roundabout Crime Stoppers. You'd be kind of surprised how much an officer can work a case and somebody else in the department doesn't know what somebody else is doing.
Yeah.
So it is, Crime Stoppers is just as handy for the officers as it is for the public, and this is a great example of that the officer was perusing the cases on there and went, hey, I know that guy from other stuff. So we ended up citing him and arresting him for that. So that's good news. Solved case.
Solved case. So we're on in the break room right now in the Lincoln Police Department, right?
Well, we better be now. That's a good idea. I'm going to make sure there's a TV down there.
All right, so case number 2 here. This was an identity theft, and this was a big money case, I believe, as well, from back in late March.
Yes, this is back at First State Bank. She basically did a couple of different withdrawals for several $1,000s each. So we were definitely looking for this person. We got her identified as Ginger Lorraine Lemons. We have active warrants for her, but we do not know where she is. I'm not sure if she's in Lincoln or not, but we are still looking for her. So if you happen to know her whereabouts and you want another Crime Stopper tip to come in for us, that would be fantastic to tell us where she's at.
Ginger Lorraine Lemons. Date of birth 1963
Yes.
there. So if you know where Ginger is, we have some people who would also like to know where Ginger is. But it's good that we've at least identified the person.
We're halfway
in
there.
that case.
We got the name. Now we just need to get the arrest in. So.
Next case was a sexual assault or sexual offense.
Yeah, so basically he was at Walmart. There was a girl there. He kind of talked to her. He ends up touching her on the backside, and obviously the victim in this case was upset about it, calls the police. We got a good information on this case. We end up arresting the guy. We got him at least arrested for disturbing the peace on this one. So sometimes it just depends on the case and what we can actually charge someone, so that's what they went on this one, as the disturbing the peace. So that was good. We got him at least identified.
Cleared and identified and cited. Next one. This one, again, I have to credit his ingenuity in this case. This was basically scanning at a Hy-Vee on 50th and O, scanning a Kool-Aid packet, but it looked like he was scanning a much larger item. But
yeah, if you go on TikTok, you'll see stupid stuff like this all the time where people are like, hey, you could do this. I don't recommend following those because this is a guy,
anything really you see
kind of
on
a good
TikTok,
example.
probably just don't.
Maybe not.
Just don't do it.
So, I mean, there's some great cooking tips on there, I'm sure, but,
Yes.
you know,
Good recipes.
He basically had 72 different transactions where he did this kind of activity. The interesting thing about this one is the officer got a phone call from the suspect saying he saw himself on Crime Stoppers, turned himself in.
Is he eligible for
Obviously,
the reward?
no. Unfortunately, when you turn yourself in, you're not eligible to get your own reward. Wow. But we do appreciate
Clear
the
conscience,
honesty
I suppose.
within that.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help down the road as you go through court, that you are actually like, hey, this is actually me, and didn't make the officer have to go all those extra steps and do all that legwork to get that case solved.
Well, kudos to that guy.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm always happy when someone turns himself in on Crime Stoppers. It always makes my day.
That's probably the easiest way to clear a case, is just if the person fesses up to it. Okay, so that's another one. Next one here, we have 2 images with this one. This is image number 1, and this is image number 2.
Yep.
These were 2 gentlemen who had sticky hands over at Shields in South Lincoln.
So basically they ended up taking some gun holsters. They ripped them out of their packaging and stole the holsters itself. I think there was 3 of them in total. We ended up having these 2 guys, and there was actually a female that was with them. We got them all identified, and so that's all good. It sounds like they may have been with the truck that we saw in these images. So I'm not positive on this one if we actually have them cited yet, but we know who they are.
We have them identified. Again, that's the hard part.
That is the hard part.
So, okay, that's another one. Chalk it up as a win. Another one here. I think you sent me also her mugshot, but I went with the image of the crime itself. But this was from February, a CVS. It was kind of confusing trying to read through it. She put stuff on the app, but then didn't actually pay for it.
Yeah, so some of these businesses now, if you haven't done it, they have the ability to buy stuff on the app, and then you kind of show them like a receipt basically as you walk out the door. Of course, with any of that kind of technology, just like we were talking with the Kool-Aid packets, somebody has put out there that you could do something fraudulently and get away with it, and unfortunately sometimes you don't get away with it fraudulently when you try it, and that was potentially the case in this one. It sounds like she was actually ringing stuff up on her app. She'd been in a couple of times. The staff noticed something suspicious, and in the end, she was trying to fraud the Walgreens the CVS at 56th and Nebraska Parkway originally, but we also had Walgreens at 48th and Huntington that had this similar instance with this female. So we were trying to identify her. We got her identified. She currently has 4 different broadcasts for 4 different cases. We know that she was arrested.
Broadcast a warrant?
So a broadcast is different than a warrant. A warrant would basically mean that we're going to arrest you on site for that crime. A broadcast is typically where we say, hey, we have enough that we believe that you're probably the person we need to talk to about this. Sometimes it's as general as we don't know for sure, but we want to talk to you. So it can kind of be anywhere in between. It's a let's see if we can find this person to talk to them about it and interview them. And if we get an admission, we might cite them. But it can also be cite with admission regardless, with or without it. We may have enough probable cause to arrest you either way. So it's kind of that gray area in between where we're still working on the case, but we don't necessarily need a warrant yet.
The person that we
yes.
want to talk to.
So in this case, we've narrowed it down. We know who it is. We have 4 different broadcasts for 4 different cases, and I know we just talked about 2 of those. There were 2 more that they've linked to this now. And so we know she was arrested in Knox County back in July. We're hoping that maybe she just had come from Knox County down here, and maybe somebody can kind of key us in on where she's at now.
Okay, all right. Okay, so next one here, we have, I do have his booking photo here, but this was an individual who had sticky fingers and decided to swipe someone's iPhone.
Yeah, so basically this is over at Bonwich at 26th and W, and he steals this iPhone from a stool that somebody just let it sit there, accidentally just left it behind. Yeah. He grabbed it, picked it up, walked off with it. Well, we've identified him in this case as Rodney, and we're just looking for him. He's got an active broadcast for this as well to basically be cited for this case.
Okay. This one, again, I remember us talking about this one, but this guy had some stones there to just go behind the counter. The clerk had gone to the restroom, I think, is how it went, and he just decided to hop the counter there. And for all the trouble he went through, I think he made away with a couple Swisher Sweets.
Exactly. I mean, you go that trouble, I'm kind of surprised that's all he took.
All he got.
But maybe he got interrupted and he didn't get as far as he thought he was going to, because the clerk did come back. But the cool thing is we ended up getting this guy arrested. Once again, this is another one that an officer happened to have seen it on Crime Stoppers and said, hey, I know that guy. And so thankfully, with the officer on Crime Stoppers, we were able to get this guy identified and cited.
Okay, all right. Chalk it up for another win. This one was an interesting one that I believe we did fairly recently, because this was just back in late July, but this was from Star City Salvage. These gentlemen that we see here in the video were there for over 3 hours.
Yeah, they spent quite a bit of time there.
Took a number of items.
Yep. We had catalytic converters and car keys, a motorcycle. We have some great names on this one, do some tips on it. We are still looking for the people in this, though. So if you've got more information, we'll definitely take it. But we have some really good suspects that have been identified through Crime Stopper tips.
Yeah. What is it? It was like 40 sets of car keys.
Yes, it was ridiculous.
So, geez,
at a salvage shop, which I'm not sure what you would do with that, but
wow.
I'm assuming at a salvage shop they don't run.
They might have ran across my van. And then the last one we have here, and again, I think this is one that we just did maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
It was a bike theft off of a porch near 33rd and Randolph.
Yes, and we had multiple tips on this one that came in. So he must have a lot of enemies or a lot of friends, and so we ended up citing him. However, the only bad thing about this one is we didn't get the bike back. So if you know where that bike ended up, we'd really appreciate it to get it back to the residents of that house. But the good news is we at least got him cited for that case.
Because I believe that was a bike and like a bike chair.
Yes, it was the infant seat on the back.
The
of
infant
it, yes.
seat on the back that was with that one as well. So yeah, we definitely like to have that infant seat back again. That can be a decent chunk of change again between the bike and then the seat. And again, parents nowadays are spending a ton of money on all sorts of stuff, let alone replacing a bike and a bike seat. So again, these are just great examples. I mean, there's, I'm sure, tons more.
Oh yeah.
Again, you guys are posting new cases on Lincoln Crime Stoppers basically every day.
Absolutely every day. Yes.
51%.
We've been behind for a little while, but right now we're getting pretty caught up, so that's good. They're coming out faster and faster right now, so hopefully we can keep that going for a while, because it's always nice to get those out as quick as we can. Awesome.
All right, yeah. So again, go to the LincolnCrimeStoppers.com. It's a great website. Again, have it punched up here. Again, you can always watch the latest Crime Stoppers segment right there. You got it up there. But again, you can see the motorcycle guy. You can see the folks who stole the credit cards. There's a ton of stuff on there. And again, who knows? Again, we always think of things that happen are pretty innocuous, but you might know something. You might get a little cash in the process.
Absolutely.
All right. Jared, appreciate your time as always. Appreciate everyone for tuning in as always. And again, solving some crimes here in Lincoln. As always, keep it tuned to 1011 both on air and online for all of your latest news, weather, and sports. Hope everyone has a good Wednesday.